Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be going over the Season 12 League Toon, and his name is Franklin. So Franklin here is a free-to-play Toon, and he has probably the highest attacking power that I've seen in any free-to-play Toon ever. He hits incredibly hard. His attack stat is 5,900 when he's completely maxed out. That's including veteran rings and all. Franklin is a pretty interesting character to me. He's a strong character, and we don't have many strong Toons in the game, in my opinion, that really make an impact. Ivanova is probably the most known Toon that was most easily accessible, seeing as she was an old League Store Toon as well. I would say Green Alpha is the most powerful green Toon overall, but Franklin brings a bit to the table that is pretty interesting. Firstly, he's an execution character, and that to me is a little surprising actually. I would have suspected he might be a beheading character, which is similar to execution, except it combines decapitation and execution together. So execution, pretty basic specialist skill, been around for a long time. When this character attacks an enemy that has 20% HP or less, that enemy will be immediately defeated. Now, that doesn't mean that an Outlast character, for example, won't go into Outlast. They still will. So your Tanyas, your Mias, your Minervas, for example, even if you execute them, they're still alive, which is why I kind of prefer beheading. But even if they are beheaded, they would still go into Outlast, so I guess that's the same kind of point. So going over to Franklin's Rush, 76 AP, so it's pretty normal. Deal 3 attacks of 200% damage. Now 200% damage is probably the lowest amount that we've seen on S-Class characters. That being said, his attack stat is quite high. So he deals a total of 600% damage, and 100% heal reduction for 2 turns to one enemy. So that's kind of like a semi-decapitation. It's not permanent, but it goes over 2 turns, so that could be helpful. I do like that it's 100% and not 50% or 75%, like we've seen that on some other characters before. His Rush also can revive one teammate with 50% of their max HP. This character right now screams to me to be a combination of Green John and Green Herschel, and it's just because his skills look identical in a lot of different ways, and there's a little bit of James in him just because of the multi-hit attack rush. As always with multi-hit attack rushes, you need to be careful for reflect damage, you have to be careful for bide, you still have to be careful for payback, for example, especially because Franklin hits incredibly hard. So there's a lot of things that Franklin is susceptible to. I do think that he could be a very powerful character, especially for free-to-play players. His active skill, it's a little bit of a letdown, a turn 2 active skill. So you still have to wait a couple turns before using it, and then target enemy gets impair and minus 30% defense for 1 turn. For a single turn. So minus 30% defense isn't that powerful to me. Impair for just 1 turn, well, that could actually be working against you because some Toons have attack up when impaired. So there's a lot of things that you have to watch out for, in my opinion, with this character. There's a lot of ways you could trigger the defense and cause a lot of damage to yourself. Now, on the plus side, Franklin does not have a bound weapon. I'm pretty excited about this. There's a lot of different routes you can go with his weapon. I'm thinking you could go with a healing stun weapon, and as we know with healing weapons, a healing stun that is healing over multiple turns, if he rushes with this weapon, he could essentially get 45% healing for, I think it's 2 turns that the weapon works for, it might be 3 turns, but it would be a great counter to infection, because if he ends up rushing Trader, for example, and infects himself at 25%, if his weapon procs twice, then he's healing for 30%. So in that sense, he's a decent counter to someone like the Trader who can infect him, but at the same time, if we're using a healing stun weapon, then we're definitely not using like the Splash Cricket Bat, which I think could also be effective with him because of his high attacking stat. Now, I've already dressed my Franklin up with some mods, gave him attack set, gave him an attack mod because I don't have one in that specific set. I gave him attack up when taunted because I do plan on running him with Ivanova or even Aaron because they can focus, and a lot of Toons on defensive teams do taunt you. Trader is one of them. Rosita is another one. I'm going with a crit chance mod, but to be honest, this could easily and probably should be swapped out for a confuse resist. I have a stun resist mod because there are so many ways that this character could be stunned, and part of that could just be him rushing onto a Toon that has a stun weapon. Because he uses basic attacks when he rushes, it would be very easy to become stunned by a stun gun or a focus stun weapon, or someone like Mercer who rushes and stuns, or just his leadership even. Leadership skill, that is. So there's just so many ways that Franklin could be stopped. So you just have to mod him in a way that works for you. Like, I think attack versus fast is decently effective, but because he already has the trait advantage, I might want to go attack versus alert, for example. There's a lot of different ways you can make his build. I would definitely say use him on one specific team and mod him appropriately. If you end up trying to run him on every single attack team, you're going to find some faults. There's going to be problems where his mod set just doesn't work for the type of team you're trying to take down. So I personally make a number of different attack teams so that I can be effective, or at least more effective, against each of them. And now we're going to jump into a pretty typical free-to-play attack team that you could make, where Franklin is your heavy damage dealer. And this is a team I think every single free-to-play player could make. Ivanova was a League Season store. Franklin is going to be this League Season store. We have Harper, a disarming Toon. This could be replaced with 6-star Alpha, the green one. Dr. Stevens, everyone had the opportunity to pick him up. This Toon here, Nick, it doesn't have to be Nick. It could be any other command Toon that you have. Green Glenn, Green Kelly, Yellow Maggie, Dale, Xander, Sadiq, Rick. There's just a lot of different options to use here. As I mentioned before, you could use a splash weapon on Franklin, but I'm going to use a healing stun weapon. He'll have a chance to stun an enemy on each of his 3 rushes. He can also heal himself with this weapon, so it's a good way to combat infection and just in general heal him, because he is a heavy attacking Toon, so his HP and defense are quite a bit lower. Now, this type of team, there are lots of ways you can make adjustments to it. You don't have to use this one in particular. This is just an example, and I'm just trying to show you the power of Franklin, because Franklin hits, as I mentioned, incredibly hard. So by defense downing with Harper first, Franklin is going to hit even harder. He takes out Princess in one swoop, and he almost kills Frost. And Frost is a very tanky Toon. That minus 50% defense you think is pretty high, but overall, Frost just is a very tanky character, high defense, high HP, easy to make it even higher with the right weapons and mods. You can see right there, Franklin was just able to execute Princess because her HP was below 20%. In this match, I actually ended up utilizing Nyx Rush, which does maim damage but also minus 15 AP, so it's a good way of controlling the enemy. What I like about this attack team is there's a lot of control and there's a decent amount of power. The one downside is that I don't have a reviver in this team other than Franklin himself. And if Franklin ends up dying, well, there's no one to bring him back. So a simple substitution for Nick would be Slater, who everyone would have gotten from the 4th of July because he was given to everyone free. And he is an active reviver. His rush also revives. He can focus. He's a great Toon to have, and even though he doesn't fit behind an Ivanova leader, he would definitely be an asset to this team. And now we're going to take this team against a much more difficult team. So we're looking at a Jackie leader, Rosita, Tanya, Pete, and Trader. And this team is definitely what you would say is near top tier. I would not call it exactly top tier, because there are definitely some ways that I would like to manipulate some of the Toons on the defensive team to be more effective, but there's no way to unlevel skills at the moment. So this type of team definitely takes a lot of thinking. I don't have a normalized character, which will also make it more difficult because we have Tanya, who's an Outlast Toon. We have Rosita, who's a Bide Toon. There's just so many ways that this could go wrong. but I am trying to leverage my team at the moment. So after applying that minus 50% defense down, and we have a 25% attack up, Franklin is decimating the enemy at the moment. Killed 3 Toons in 1 attack, just to show you how powerful he is. Now I'm lucky that he didn't target Tanya, because if he had killed Tanya, she would have gone into Outlast and then revived someone. This is probably the most tricky part of a match for me, because I have Pete, who can revive too, and I have Tanya, who once she starts to rush, won't really stop. And she'll get a Guardian Shield, and if I kill her, she goes into Outlast, because I don't have a normalized character. What I need to do is hope that I can stun her, or I need to utilize Franklin's Impair for 1 turn, and kill her in the same turn. It's a very difficult line to follow, and it requires a lot of skill as well as patience. Anyway guys, thank you for watching and listening to my video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of a new League Season Store Toon, Franklin.